Hi guys, this is Dean. Today we're gonna look at one of the inbuilt Koyfin dashboards that you can get without having to build it. It's already built and provided for you by Koyfin. You can find this in the markets dashboard. Now before I start, I just want to point out that if you're interested, you can get 20% off Koyfin paid plans in the link in the description. Now when you're in Koyfin, you go to the column on the left, the menu on the left, you'll find what's called market dashboards, and you'll have pre-built dashboards that are provided to you by Koyfin. You cannot edit these, but they're pretty good. And today we're going to look at the first one, which is called World Equity Indices. And what you will find in this page is basically a dashboard that you can't edit, right? You can't move things around or change the data inside. It's pretty static, but it's pretty useful because it gives you a no-nonsense tool where you have all the major indices around the world, and you can basically look at their performance. Right on the right, on the left, you have the list of indices that you can select. On the right, you have a chart to represent the percentage performance, and you have a table at the bottom that shows the same percentage performance over time in a different format. Now what's great is that you can quickly select the groupings, and they have grouped into continents. You have Americas, Europe, Middle East Africa, and Asia Pacific, right? Pretty straightforward, pretty simple. So what do we find? For example, in Americas, you will have 6 indices. You'll have the Dow Jones Industrials, the S&P 500, the Nasdaq Composite, and then you'll have the Toronto Composite, the Brazilian Ibovespa, and the Mexican IPC. And it's great. You can see, for example, if I put the 5-year period, we can very quickly see what has happened in the last 5 years, and we can identify the COVID period right there. First of all, the Nasdaq, which is the mega caps in the US, have outperformed by 100, or have increased by 126%. The core S&P 500 by about 95%. Then we have the Dow Jones Industrials at 58%. Then we have the Canadian Stock Exchange at 46%. The Brazilian Stock Exchange after that, the index, and then the Mexican index. So Brazil 28 and Mexico 21. So pretty interesting to see that the US has outperformed all its continental counterparts in the last 5 years. Let's move on to the others. In Europe, we have a bit more indices here, right? So over the 5 years, first of all, let's appreciate what has happened. Probably the most interesting one, and most volatile of all of them, is the Moscow index, the MICEX. Just as a reminder, the conflict, the invasion in Ukraine happened in February 2022, so right here, and you could see that the Moscow Stock Exchange was already degrading and tumbling before that happened, and really collapsed dramatically after the conflict started. Now, over the years, it has come back up. It managed to overturn all the sanctions and work around all of this. But in the last few months, for the last 3-4 months, it's looking like it hasn't worked out for Moscow and it's tumbling back down again. Looks like the realities of the conflict are really settling in economically very recently. Now let's go outside of Russia and see what we have. We have the by order of outperformance, the Amsterdam Stock Exchange is the biggest performer, surprisingly. So this is the Netherlands, obviously. After that, we have the DAX in Germany. Then, which is surprising, it probably is an index made up of mega caps and not a lot of medium and small caps, because Germany's economy is not necessarily the brightest at the moment. Then we have Italy, surprisingly. Again, probably a lot of mega caps in there, because Italy is at the top there with Amsterdam. It's quite interesting. Then we have the CAC 40, CAC 40 in France. So these are the biggest 40 companies in France. Kind of not the best, not the worst in this situation here in Europe. You can see that since the beginning of January 2024 hasn't been going so swell. A lot of economic data that came out was very negative. Actually, all the monthly surveys were very negative recently, so not so bright in France. Then we have Spain. Actually came at a low base, but it has been going up quite significantly. The PMI is pretty positive considering relative to its European counterpart in the last few months. And the tourism seems to be doing great and it's a tourism economy. So again, starting from a low base, but has been gently rising compared to its counterparts. Then we have the Swiss market index, SMI. And lastly, we have the UK. Surprisingly, the UK pretty static, flat. If you look at the chart, which is very interesting, it only recently reached the level it was at before the pandemic. This is how dire the situation is in the UK right now. It's pretty grim, to be honest, to think about it. Yeah, not very good for the UK. What else do we have in this dashboard? We have the Middle East and Africa, and you might say, whoa, what's going on there? Well, there's two indices. You have the Borsa Istanbul for Turkey and Tel Aviv for Israel. Well, there is an outperformance of 773% of the Borsa Istanbul. So you may think, oh my God, I didn't know Turkey was so hot. Well, basically, the stocks denominated on the exchange are denominated in Turkish lira, and the inflation rate in Turkey is between 40 and 100% every year. So basically what you're looking at is the rate of inflation as well in that region. So the Turkish stocks have gone up that much because the currency that the stocks are denominated in have gone up that much. Okay, so it's not really representative of the actual growth of the economy here, not at all. It's actually just a representation of the inflation happening in Turkey. However, you can adjust for that, and if we remove that, we can have a look at what Israel has been doing for the last 5 years. It basically went up by 37%. Interestingly, the conflict in Israel started in October last year. It initially went down, the market tanked a bit, but since then it has gone back up quite gently. Next region, probably the most interesting region, is Asia Pacific. Now we have a lot of indices there too. We have two main indices for China. We have the Shanghai Composite and the Shanghai Shenzhen. I didn't look it up too much, but I think the Shanghai Shenzhen is just 300 companies in China, while the Shanghai Composite is a bit broader, but don't quote me on that. What else do we got? We got the Nikkei 225 for Japan. So if we look at the performance, right, first of all, let's highlight the insane growth of India. So this is the Sensex index, 120% in the last 5 years, and recently it's just been going up and up and up. The PMIs, if you look at trading economics and you filter PMIs by country and by growth, India has a PMI of around 60 for the last year or so. Every month after month, services, manufacturing, it's always around 60, while all the other countries are around 50. It's pretty insane what's happening in India, to be honest, and who knows how that's going to end, but it looks like there is no end of the growth, India growth in sight. It's just going up and up and up. So therefore, no surprises there to see it at the top. Then we have the Taiwan index, Taiwan weighted takes. Now, as you may know already, pretty semiconductor heavy and overweight. So really, we might as well look at the TSMC chart here. That's really the only main company there that kind of distorts the numbers here. The Nikkei for Japan, the AS30 for Australia, pretty flat, not really impressive results, 23% in 5 years. The Jakarta Composite, again, pretty mild growth, 23%. However, it's a very interesting region of frontier market or emerging market, and all the economic data is quite good coming out of Indonesia, very good demographics. Interesting place to look into for future opportunities for sure. Then we have the Shanghai Composite, the Straits Times STI. This is the Singapore index. Then we have the Shenzhen, the Shanghai Shenzhen, and the HSI, the Hang Seng, or the Hong Kong index. And what you can do is you can look at periods that are more recent as well. We could scroll through to look at more recent data. For example, if I pull up the 1 year, and let's look at the last 6 months, for example, or even 3 months, and you can see that the Hang Seng index, the Shanghai Composite, and the Shanghai Shenzhen have exploded in the last few weeks. If I just pull up a 1 month chart, they've literally gone up. The Hang Seng went up 24% in the last week or so, because the China trade is changing. The shorts are gone away. The economic data coming out of China is pretty good, and so the tide is turning and everybody's going back in. It's a risk-on situation for China. There's a lot of things, trades that could be played. I invite you to use Koyfin screener actually to dig into the stocks you can find in Hong Kong, because the problem with China is that you cannot buy stocks from the outside. There is some kind of weird proxy going on. You have to go through Hong Kong listed companies to as a foreigner to have access to this market. But I'm sure there's plenty of opportunities. You can use Koyfin to its full capabilities to go through the screener, look at stocks that you can access in Hong Kong, have exposure to China, look at the data points in terms of sectors, industry, what's going on, and go from there. Plenty of trades to be done there. And that wraps up this market dashboard for world equity indices. What do you think, guys? It's great to be able to pull it up anytime, look at what happened over the long term, over the short term, what's going on into different parts of the main markets regions, and keep tabs and make your assessment of what's going on. So that's it for this video. I'll see you next time.